Section 6. The Capture: How Dahmer Was Finally Stopped. Jeffrey Dahmer's reign of terror came to an end on July 22, 1991. His final victim, Tracy Edwards, managed to escape from Dahmer's apartment. He flagged down 2 police officers and led them back to the scene of the crime. Upon entering Dahmer's apartment, the officers were confronted with a nightmarish scene. Photographs of dismembered bodies were discovered along with human remains. Dahmer was arrested on the spot. His calm demeanor during the arrest was chilling. The evidence found in Dahmer's apartment was overwhelming. Police discovered skulls, bones, and other body parts. Dahmer confessed to the murders, providing detailed accounts of his crimes. His confessions were as disturbing as the evidence. The capture of Jeffrey Dahmer ended one of the most horrifying chapters in American criminal history. His arrest brought relief to a community terrorized by his actions. It was a moment of justice for the families of his victims. Section 7. The Trial: Justice Served. Jeffrey Dahmer's trial began on January 30, 1992. He was charged with 15 counts of murder. Dahmer pleaded guilty but insane to the charges, hoping to be found not guilty by reason of insanity. His defense argued that his actions were the result of a severe mental disorder. The prosecution, however, painted a picture of a calculated killer. They argued that Dahmer knew right from wrong and had meticulously planned his crimes. The trial was a media sensation, drawing attention from around the world. After 2 weeks of testimony, the jury found Dahmer guilty on all counts. He was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms in prison, amounting to 957 years behind bars. The verdict was a relief to the victims' families and the public. Dahmer's trial was a landmark in the history of criminal justice. It highlighted the importance of understanding the psychology of serial killers and the necessity of rigorous law enforcement. Justice had been served, but the scars left by Dahmer's actions would take years to heal. Section 8. Life Behind Bars: Dahmer in Prison. In prison, Jeffrey Dahmer was a marked man. His notoriety made him a target for other inmates. He spent his first year in solitary confinement for his own safety. Despite this, Dahmer seemed to accept his fate with a strange sense of calm. Dahmer reportedly found religion while in prison, attending church services and reading the Bible. Some saw this as a sign of genuine repentance, while others viewed it as a ploy for sympathy. Dahmer's actions in prison were scrutinized closely by the media and the public. Despite his religious conversion, Dahmer's life behind bars was far from peaceful. He was attacked several times by fellow inmates. On November 28, 1994, Dahmer was beaten to death by Christopher Scarver, another inmate. His death was as violent as his life had been. The murder of Jeffrey Dahmer in prison brought a grim end to his story. Many viewed it as a form of poetic justice, while others saw it as a failure of the prison system. Dahmer's death closed a dark chapter in American criminal history. Section 9. The End of Dahmer: Death by an Inmate's Hand. Jeffrey Dahmer's death was sudden and brutal. On the morning of November 28, 1994, Dahmer, along with 2 other inmates, was assigned to clean a bathroom. Christopher Scarver, one of the inmates, attacked Dahmer with a metal bar, severely beating him. Dahmer was found on the floor of the bathroom, barely alive. He was rushed to a nearby hospital but was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. The motive behind Scarver's attack was reportedly Dahmer's crimes, which Scarver found particularly heinous. The news of Dahmer's death was met with mixed reactions. Some felt justice had finally been served, while others believed Dahmer should have lived out his sentence. His death sparked debates about prison safety and the moral implications of vigilante justice within the prison system. Christopher Scarver was sentenced to additional time for Dahmer's murder. The violent end to Dahmer's life was a stark reminder of the brutality that had defined his existence. His death marked the final chapter in a story filled with horror and tragedy. Section 10. Societal Impact: Unraveling the Horror. The crimes of Jeffrey Dahmer had a profound impact on society. His actions forced a re-evaluation of how law enforcement handles missing person cases and investigations of potential serial killers. The failures in the Konarak synthosophone case highlighted significant gaps in police procedures. Dahmer's story also brought attention to the vulnerabilities of marginalized communities. Many of his victims were young men of color, often from disadvantaged backgrounds. The lack of urgency in investigating their disappearances underscored systemic issues and how certain communities are policed. The media coverage of Dahmer's crimes was extensive and often sensationalized. This coverage shaped public perception, turning Dahmer into a figure of morbid fascination. Documentaries, books, and films about his life and crimes continue to captivate audiences. The societal impact of Dahmer's crimes extends beyond law enforcement and media coverage. It sparked discussions about mental health, criminal psychology, and the nature of evil. Dahmer's story remains a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk within individuals. Section 11, Legacy of Evil, Dahmer's Place in History. Jeffrey Dahmer's legacy is one of horror and infamy. He is remembered as one of the most notorious serial killers in history. His crimes left an indelible mark on the collective consciousness, serving as a grim reminder of the potential for evil within humanity. The lessons learned from Dahmer's case have influenced criminal justice practices. Advances in forensic science and improvements in law enforcement procedures can be traced back in part to the failures and successes in handling Dahmer's case. His story is a case study in the complexities of criminal behavior. Dahmer's life and crimes have also become a subject of academic study. Psychologists, criminologists, and sociologists analyze his actions to understand the mind of a serial killer. The insights gained from studying Dahmer contribute to the broader field of criminal psychology. Despite the horror of his actions, Jeffrey Dahmer's story continues to fascinate and horrify. His place in history is secured not just by the brutality of his crimes but by the lasting impact they have had on society. Dahmer's legacy is a dark chapter in the annals of crime, a reminder of the depths of human depravity.